So I wanted to try something slightly different this week. We cover a lot of cloud gaming type stories here on this channel, but this week there was no one big story that stood out to me. So I wanted to try this format, see how it works, and just try a roundup of different cloud gaming news from the past week. Nope, I'm not running. I just move my arms a lot when I talk. So what better place to start than by prodding at the Stadia fanboys with this salty tidbit. When Stadia was announced back at GDC 2019, they made this sort of big song and dance of specifically working with id Software on Doom Eternal to bring Doom to the Stadia platform. With id Software coming to the stage and saying, and I quote, "We couldn't be happier to bring Doom Eternal to Stadia, and we're thrilled to announce the game will be capable of running at true 4K resolution with HDR color and an unrelenting 60 frames per second. However, this week, in a slight backpedal, Bethesda has said the following on the specs of Doom Eternal running on Stadia. Doom Eternal on Stadia will run at 1080p at 60 frames per second on HD displays and upsample to 2160p from 1800p at 60 frames per second on 4K displays." So just in case you missed that, it's upscaling to 4K, not true 4K as I previously said. So personally on this note, I'm not that bothered. One, because I won't be buying Doom Eternal on Stadia. Secondly, when you're talking about the difference 1800p to 2160, the upscaling they're doing, it's not a huge difference, possibly on consoles, but when you're talking about a cloud gaming service, depending on your internet speed, most of the time you're going to have the presence of compression artifacts and maybe a dropped frame here or there anyway, so it's not the biggest deal. But where I do land on this one is actually just the growing distrust in Google when it comes to Stadia. With their list of still missing features, their relatively small library, and still unrealistic business model, I'm not too sure if they're aware how they're coming across to the gaming community. But if they wanted to find out people's true thoughts, they just need to go to the replies of their marketing tweets, because let's just say if you're looking for a good read while you're in isolation, there's some funny stuff in there. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this last minute backpedal. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But on the note of Doom Eternal, Stadia did do this surprise flash sale in the US, reducing their Premier Edition from $129 down to $99. So the Premier Edition comes with the controller, a Google Chromecast Ultra, and 3 months of Stadia Pro. This bid obviously seems like a last minute push to try to get Doom fans over to try Stadia. I wonder what they'll think. Moving on to GeForce Now, obviously when we've discussed them more recently, it's been around the challenges they've had launching their cloud gaming platform, with publishers pulling their entire libraries from the service. However, in spite of that, it turns out sales-wise, they could be doing okay. We previously discussed the 2 tiers available on GeForce Now, the free tier, which has you queuing for a virtual machine and limits you to an hour of playtime, or there's the Founders tier, which you pay $5 for a month and gets you priority access to a virtual machine, extends that playtime up to 6 hours, and gets you access to enhanced hardware. Well, in Europe, the Founders Edition is actually no longer available, with the GeForce Now website stating it's sold out, and that they're currently looking to add more capacity with an option to sign up to be notified when it becomes available. So this is the situation currently in Europe, but it looks like the US is also going this way very soon. The real question here is, are their sales of the Founders Edition going particularly well, better than they were expecting when they launched the service? Or did they actually just launch a service knowing they were under capacity of this Founders Edition hardware, the hardware that comes with RTX ray tracing? And that this was just inevitably going to happen. Obviously it's happened at this stage now, but you can just imagine if that list of publishers hadn't pulled their libraries from the service and it was doing much better than it is today, at what point was this going to happen? Would it be like a week, 2 weeks into its launch, they would have already run out of these Founders slot? That's also not a great look for them. So they were going to look bad either way. I don't know, it's an interesting one. It has me thinking. Again, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And finally, because it can't not be talked about, the coronavirus and how it can't even leave gaming alone. It's the one thing we've got left. This week, Shadow released communications stating many Team Shadow members are home doing what they love most, gaming on Shadow. However, this has created a drastic influx of users logging onto Shadow simultaneously over the last few days, creating an unprecedented spike in traffic and impacting our service, which some of you have experienced. In order to mitigate the situation, we've taken immediate actions, including slowing down Shadow Boost activations and tweaking our hibernation policy. This came after a couple of incidents earlier this week caused users of the Paris and Amsterdam data centers unable to use the service. And the explanation given behind this is that the increased traffic caused the data centers to exceed the maximum amount of electricity contractually agreed with their suppliers. Luckily, this does appear to be resolved now with no further incidents later in the week. And just on the note of that hibernation policy, this is just something that was implemented which would automatically shut down your shadow after 120 minutes. This would just ensure that the data center's capacity was available for other users. But just in this time, they've reduced that from 120 minutes down to 30 minutes. So just an even better excuse just to never stop gaming. And just lastly on this, in case you have noticed a difference in performance of your shadow because of this increased traffic, just a piece of advice given on the Shadow Discord is to try reducing your bandwidth, and the recommended amount was down to 30 megs. So that was it on these quick cloud gaming news pieces. Let me know what you thought of the format, if this is something you liked, if this is something you'd like to see me carry on doing. Yeah, we're all about leaving stuff in the comments today. I've not spoke to that many people in a long time. Just, are you there? Talk to me. But if you found these news pieces particularly helpful, a like rating would be appreciated. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video, wash your hands, and as always, I shall see you in the next one.